Hello, welcome again to FAIRtax Power Radio. I'm Bob Paxton,
And I'm Bob Scarborough.
and we are
The
the FAIRtax Guys. Yes, and you're still there at your radio studio, and I'm still at the TWA Hotel
yeah,
in New York City.
I love you.
Kinda.
We're getting ready to get into election season, and if you don't have a scrolling banner, you need to get a couple of them because let me tell you, you're going to end up wearing them out. These are great things to have to stand in a town hall meeting on the side of the road because the tax prep people have left the corners, and you could actually stand. You could actually stand at rush hour and just hold the banner and just let people that
Yes.
are stopping and going at the intersection see simple,
Yes.
efficient, visible fair
Yeah.
tax.
FairtaxStore.org. Go check that out and see what we can get. You're
Yep.
talking about the mentioned tax preparation company. We are going to get into a story that I told you last week that this will just make your blood boil.
Boy,
Reference to the what the tax preparation companies have done or have been caught doing, and
yes.
we will get into that in just a minute. But first, let's have a little fun at the Congress critters' expense by showing people what those Congress critters are trying to do to the tax code. So
Uh,
if it wasn't so sad, it would be funny.
yeah,
You
and you
know,
have to laugh sometimes. You just have to go in with count it all joy, you just have to count it all joy and
yeah.
laugh sometimes because you'd cry otherwise.
How in the world do we have a tax code system that puts up with stuff like this? We'll start off with H.R. 4521 to amend the Internal Revenue Code to exclude certain compensation of election workers from the gross income of such workers, and your favorite phrase, for other purposes. So
Yes.
again, we will quote our economic professor friend David Kendall that says one of the problems with having an income tax is defining what income is. So if you are a election worker, certain compensation you receive will not be counted as income for tax purposes if HR 4521 is passed and signed into law. Isn't that cool?
Yeah, just the way it goes. I mean, and the for other purposes part is just hilarious because they don't know. I mean, they're really not knowing exactly what the end game is going to be for that particular piece of legislation, and so they put and anything else we might have forgotten, but it comes out
Oh,
as
mercy.
nicer. It sounds nicer as for other purposes.
All right,
That
let me try to scoot through here there so we don't take up too much time
yeah,
on this, but it is important to show people what the Congress critters are trying to do to the tax code so we can make the case for getting rid of the tax code. Well, some people would like to make the case for getting rid of the Congress critters, or at least the ones that are there now and replacing them all. But let's see if we can replace the tax code so they're no longer doing stuff like this. This is a HR 4520 to amend the Internal Revenue Code to establish a credit for hired critical employees and to make permanent certain expiring provisions relating to the child tax credit. We talked about this last week, how the shifting sand nature of the tax code is. They'll have something permanent and then they'll take it away, and then they'll have something temporary and then they'll try to make that permanent. And this is crazy, to establish a credit for hired critical employees. So I guess somebody gets to decide what a critical employee is, and then to make permanent some provisions that were set to expire relating to the child tax credit. We have a wonderful tax system, don't we?
Oh yes, it's so easy. It just all you need is one piece of paper, and and it's done. But what we're talking about with the fair tax is no piece of paper for income tax because it would be gone. The income tax would be, and you'd be spending money when you go get a cup of coffee. That's where you pay your income tax or your tax to the Treasury as a
Mm-hmm.
consumption tax. But I guess you could still call it an income tax, but it's not.
Well, I've heard somebody say all taxes are income taxes because you pay them with your income.
That's
But there's basically a difference between taxing your income when you earn it and taxing your income when you spend it.
yes, agreed. I agree. I
So
agree.
it's just a lot easier to do it when you tax consumption, i.e., spending, rather than actual when you earn it. So the fair tax would change the point at which you are taxed from when you earn it to when you spend it. Let's go on to HR 4501 to amend the Internal Revenue Code to prohibit Section 501c3 organizations from providing funding for the administration of elections for public office. Now, there's something a larger, thing in play here. Is 501c3? That refers to a section of the IRS code. The organizations that, if you are educational or something like that, those organizations can be exempt from paying taxes. But then again, under the fair tax, there are no tax exempt organizations because there's no income tax to be exempt from.
Right. That's right. But and that's the thing. It's the complexities of the tax code get layered and layered and layered and layered on, and then all of a sudden you're buried under and for other purposes a million times. And and for what? I mean, if you asked the congressperson that wrote that and added what forever other purposes they were thinking of when they wrote, I wouldn't be able to tell you because there isn't anything yet. It just we got
this particular one doesn't have a for other purposes on it. This is about the 501c3. This is Representative Claudia Tenney of New York. But again, when you think about it, the restrictions that are placed on what 501c3s can do, and in some cases what 501c3s can say, you might have a First Amendment issue there.
Very true. I mean, it covers all facets of talk. Yeah, sure does.
Okay. Let's move on here. H.R. 4441 to amend the Internal Revenue Code to prohibit, get this, foreign adversaries and certain entities related to such adversaries from claiming certain tax credits relating to electric vehicles. Does that one go to the Hall of Shame?
Yeah, put it on there, send it on over.
Oh, mercy. So I guess you're going to prohibit a foreign adversary. You have to define who or what qualifies as a foreign adversary. And then certain entities, you have to define what those entities are that relate to such adversaries and tell those folks, well, you can't claim these tax credits if you buy electric cars. That one goes in the Hall of Shame, no doubt about it.
Yeah, I mean, both sides of that EV story, people are saying, well, I don't know if it's ever going to happen or if it should, or why would it, or how can we pay for it at some point in time? And we may never see it, but in some point in time, I think we have to look at that as the way it's going to be. I think they're forcing a lot of it into the mainstream, and even if they think, well, it's technically, or with the grid the way it is, we're not going to be able to do. We're not going to be able to sufficiently handle EV charging plus everything else the grid is supporting today. But at the same time, the argument could be, well, if you don't think about it now, then you'll never get there. And my thinking is, let the market decide. Let the consumers, the businesses are only going to make things that consumers want. They'll try a few things this way. And if nobody buys it, well, then, hey, guess what? We're going to go back and go this way, or maybe move 2 degrees over to the right a little bit. So we end up with this coercion of activity and development in markets that the government has no business being involved in, and incentives through the tax code put us in a bad way in terms of what our economy is going to look like, and it will cripple us if we are forced to go in a direction that nobody's ready to go in just yet, as in buying electric cars. I saw an article where there are plenty of cars to buy, plenty of electric cars to buy on the lots. Nobody's buying them for one reason or another. Maybe the charging issue, or it might be too expensive or whatever. The market has to be let loose, and the government doesn't need to be involved in it. And I see things happening in the tax code as you go through congress.gov every week that allow things to happen in our government, telling us what's the way we need to go on things.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on here, because I want to get to this article. We've been promising people we're going to boil some blood here shortly. But the last one here today is HR 4397 to amend the Internal Revenue Code to deny tax deductions for certain settlements paid in connection with defamation. So this sounds like if somebody sues you for defamation and you settle with them, that's not considered, something that you can write off. You cannot deduct a settlement paid in connection with defamation. Something that I bet you is in every tax code around the world.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that's nuts. Okay. So why do we do this Congress.gov segment every week to try to show people just how insane our tax system is, and it is insane. And this next article we're going to discuss will even make it even more so. This was, of course, we have a system that is so complex and so convoluted that I don't know the percentage of taxpayers who have to hire a professional tax preparer to do their taxes for them. Now, a lot of them use a professional software like TurboTax, and there's other online tax preparation places that have to use those. But that's the same as taking your shoebox full of receipts and going down to H&R Block or TaxSlayer or some of these places. And one of the things that's just a cornerstone, supposed to be anyway, a cornerstone of the whole tax system is that, well, if the government's going to collect all of this highly sensitive personal data on you, then they at least need to guarantee that data is confidential. It will never be disclosed to somebody else without your approval or permission. And that's the way the law is written. But in real practice, sometimes that doesn't happen.
Not at all. Not at all. And we are concerned sometimes about hackers infiltrating past the security gates at sensitive servers where information like our personal information is stored, like with the Internal Revenue Service. But then we don't think about, well, maybe there's somebody at the Internal Revenue Service that's sending our information out the other way.
And the ProPublica leak was something, but we want to get into an article again. This is a CBS News. H&R Block and other tax prep firms shared consumer data with Meta, M-E-T-A, that's the company that now owns Facebook, and Google. So there are certain lawmakers, including Senator Warren and Senator Sanders, that are saying the H&R Block, TaxSlayer, Tax Act, all of these people who have to collect all this personal data on you to do your tax return was just turning around and sending it to these big tech companies. Why would they do that? Oh, I think I know. These big tech companies like to know as much as they can about everybody out there so they can target advertising at them.
Well, the report was in a magazine called The Verge last year, alleging that companies were using code that funneled data, including income and tax refund amounts, to Meta. The tax prep companies use the code called MetaPixel. Meta is the name of the company that owns Facebook, and Pixel is a name of a device that's actually part of the Google offerings that's out there. Now, they use this code to send personal data to both companies, collected far more information than was previously reported, according to a letter sent by lawmakers to the Internal Revenue Service, the Federal Trade Commission, the Treasury Department, and the Justice Department, that was viewed by CBS Money Watch. In other words, CBS Money Watch, which is where this article comes from, hat tip to our writer, Amy Peachy from last year, or Peachy. We thank her for the diligence that she puts in at CBS News to bring these articles to the public, and we further have commentary on them, but bringing you the information. The code collected people's names, collected taxpayer filing status, approximate adjusted gross income, refund amount, the names of dependents, and the amount of federal tax owed, among other items, according to what the investigation found.
Yeah, but the thing is, Bob, why would they do that? I mean, why, if you're H&R Block or if you're for some other tax preparation company, why would you think, oh, just off the top of my head, gee, I think I'm going to take all this information and send it over to Meta? I mean, that doesn't make sense. It sounds like Meta would come to these folks and say, "Listen, we would like to have this information if you'd send it to us." So I'm guessing it doesn't say for sure. Of course, both sides say, "Oh, wait a minute, this is confidential. We're not supposed to do that. This is against our policy." But it happens when these big tech companies who make billions with a B, billions of dollars, in advertising revenue, and they try to target if you're watching say YouTube videos about aviation, then
Right.
the airline that, well, okay, well, let's send this guy airline advertisements. And or if you're watching videos about taking cruises, well, the cruise lines would like to get a hold of this guy. So the more stuff you can collect on what people like, and then tie that in with how much they make. Well, can this guy that likes cruises, can he afford to buy one? Oh, yes, he can. Let's send him an ad about it. So
Right.
this is just insane that our tax system allows this. And the fair tax, totally
Takes it all the way out.
anonymous. The government doesn't know anything about you. There are no tax preparation companies. You do not have to share any of your personal data information to take care of your tax obligation with a fair tax, because you don't have to do it. You just pay your taxes as part of the price of the things you buy. It's done anonymously. That's it. This cannot and will not happen under the fair tax.
Well, a Google spokesperson talked to the reporter at CBS News at KPIX in Los Angeles. Quote, "We have strict policies and technical features that prohibit Google Analytics." That's the underlying data parser that works inside website traffic. Analytics, Google Analytics, it prohibits Google Analytics customers meaning like the
people that use the Google Analytics service.
Yeah, right. Like H&R Block or the others, or Intuit, et cetera. Those folks are prohibited from collecting data that could be used to identify an individual. In other words, they couldn't tie your data that's collected inside that transaction to you. Site owners, not Google, this is Google spokesperson in their comment, still under quote. Site owners, not Google, are in control of what information they collect and must inform their users of how it will be used. It's in that terms of service privacy policy page on every website that's miles long and in small print. Google has strict policies against advertising to people based on sensitive information. Tax Act and Tax Slayer included in those in referencing those comments. Well, guess what, Bob? Guess what the IRS is getting ready to do?
Yeah, I know what they're up to. This is all because the IRS is trying to develop its own free electronic tax filing system. Right now, if you go online, if you use TurboTax, if you go to H&R Block or Tax Act or Tax Slayer, any of these places, obviously you have to pay a fee to use their service. And now the IRS is trying to come up with a system that will basically render that unnecessary. Hey, come over here and you can file your taxes free. And of course, the tax preparation industry doesn't like that much.
Well, and I want my tax preparer on my side of the table, not on the IRS side of the table. If it has to,
I don't want to have to prepare a tax return at all.
Not at all. Well, how much do you spend on your taxes? Well, according to the reports, we spend an average of $250 and 13 hours each year. Individuals, businesses not included in this, filing their annual tax return, according to the lawmakers that wrote the letters. While free tax prep is offered for people who earn less than $73,000 annually, only about 4% of Americans actually use the free service from the tax preparing online websites. The investigation into data sharing by tax prep companies highlights the urgent need for the IRS to develop its own online tax filing system to protect taxpayer privacy and provide a better alternative for taxpayers to file their returns, according to lawmakers. So we know Washington wants to move the tax preparer that represents us to the IRS side of the table. And that's if you were to continue in the mode of an income tax, why the heck would you want somebody from the internal revenue, the people that you have to pay, why would you want them telling you and figuring out what you owed? You got to have somebody that's an advocate for you. I'm not for it. Seems like the lawmakers, though, seems like our lawmakers are for it and not not looking out for. They're using the challenge of privacy and these issues that are happening with regard to the pathways, like for Google Analytics, showing the companies that use it what the person makes. And I think what I'm getting out of this article is the lawmakers are pushing big for the Internal Revenue Service to be able to do our taxes for us if we so chose to use a service other than online. And they're building this big monster within the online tax preparation community in the form of saying your privacy is not as strong as it should be because data is moving out in this particular manner, when in reality, as long as the data is not attributable to an individual, then I don't really think that there's a problem in that. And now that I've said all that, I'll say, how complex it is. We spent how many hours talking about this stuff? If you get rid of the IRS and you lose contact with an income tax, you pay for your taxes at the cash register when you buy something new, then hey, you solved all these problems. You don't have to worry.
You solve all the problems if you have a tax system where you do not need to collect information like this on anybody to make the system work. Pay your taxes when you buy things. So if there is no information about who you work for, how much money you made, how much you gave to the church, how your investments did, this, that, the other, how many kids you got. I mean, just thousands and thousands of things that the IRS knows about people that they have to know in order to calculate their income tax. And all of that data can either be hacked, it can be leaked, or it can be, requested by big tech. And even though there's a policy against it, we're just kind of go under the covers and take care of it. Get rid of the whole system. Implement a system. None of this is necessary, or you do not have to file a tax return. With the FAIRtax, you do not have to tell the government a thing about your personal finances. You pay your taxes anonymously at the cash register. I can't, emphasize that enough. All of this problem goes away with the FAIRtax.
Exactly, without a doubt. And then you don't have to worry. I mean, I get pretty passionate about talking about the income tax and what we just talked about with regard to what normally happens when Google Analytics is applied to your website. It collects data to show you as the website owner where people are going on your page, how long they're staying there, what did they click on, where'd they come from, where'd they go after they left your site, etc. All comes through Google Analytics. Google's available. Google is available, has that information available to them, but at the same time, you are not attributing it to you. It's not attributed to you. And I get passionate talking about this stuff, but at the same time, I think I see what's happening as reported in this article is that our legislators are up there in Washington thinking, well, hey, we need the Internal Revenue Service doing everybody's taxes. That'll make it a lot easier to do, and there won't be all these privacy issues going on. And at the same time, I really do believe that if we were to ever stay in the income tax realm, I would not want the Internal Revenue Service doing my taxes and telling me how much I owed them. I want to be able to say, hey, I think this is what I owe, and here it is. And if you think you need to come on.
You have heard one of the things that was possibly proposed with the IRS to get all these new supercomputers is that, we will fill out your tax return for you. All you have to do is sign it and send it back. So that's great. We got about 3.5 minutes left here. I want to get into something that it's just very important to people to understand is that later this year, the House of Representatives, if Kevin McCarthy, follows through and doesn't renege on his promise, that we can put every member of the House of Representatives on record. Do you support this crazy system that requires us to disclose all of our personal information, which can be hacked or leaked or whatever? Or would you prefer a system that is totally anonymous, where people decide what they pay, not the government decides what they're paid? And everybody that's in the House of Representatives is going to have to vote. Oh, of course, some of them may really chicken out and just vote present. They won't vote yes or no. But we're going to see where the people in the House. Steve Hayes has been hitting on this in his chairman's reports for months now, that every House member is going to be put on record. Do you support the income tax, or do you support getting rid of the income tax? And that's why it's important that we, the people, and those people who are watching this show today, get their friends, get their family, get everybody they know to lean on their representative and say, hey, listen, this tax system we've got stinks. There is a better one. You better support it.
Can you imagine walking into a town hall meeting and you ask a question of the candidate? Do you support getting rid of the Internal Revenue Service? Do you support closing down the Internal Revenue Service? And they would say, well,
you get a bunch of political doublespeak that really doesn't answer the question. But they're going to have to answer the question: which tax system do they prefer when this bill comes up for a vote, and they're going to have to vote on it. And of course, their votes are public record.
Right. That's exactly right. And the scrolling banners that we talk about that you want to take around, signs are available for your yard. Everybody that is a member of AFFT, that's a volunteer, everybody that is listening to the show today, you need to go to fairtaxstore.org and click on signs, banners, and pick up a couple of those scrolling banners. For under $7,
pick up some palm cards and prebate cards that you can hand out to people.
And go ahead and duct tape that yard sign in the back of your car. You still have to be able to see to back up, but put that. We got to let people see the fair tax, see it.
Yeah.
You're driving down the road, see it in your yard, your neighbor's yard, and so on.
People have just got to make their representatives know, you can't political double talk your way out of this one. You're either going to vote for the fair tax or you're going to vote against the fair tax. And if you vote against the fair tax, then you are voting in favor of the income tax in the IRS and all the abuses and all the problems we've been highlighting about the IRS on this show for quite a number of years now.
Right.
And if they vote in favor of the income tax in the IRS, then you'll have to hold their feet to the fire and make them defend their position. And that's almost impossible, because supporting the income tax, in my opinion anyway, and a lot of other people's opinion, is just an indefensible thing. And that's going to wrap up this edition of Fair Tax Power Radio. I'm afraid we're all out of time again. Thank you so much for watching, listening, and sharing the videos. As always, I'm Bob Paxton.
I'm Bob Scarborough.
We are the FAIRtax Guys, reminding you the fair tax is the only truly fair tax, and once you understand it,
you'll demand it.
So, how much will I bring home?
Go ahead.
How much do you make? We'll just say 40,000, okay? Keep it simple, throw out the deductions, all that stuff. So, you got your 40K, right? Now the first 8,000 is going to be taxed at 10%. The 8 to 33,000 is going to be taxed at 15%. And the 33 to 40, of course, is 25%. So that brings your total to $6,345.
Okay, so the average is what?
16%. Okay, and then on top of that, you got Medicare, which is 1.5%, and then of course your Social Security, which is 6.2%. So actually, your new total is $9,405.
Which is
23.65%. You're getting it. You're getting it. Don't even get me started on what the boss has to pay. He's got to pay a portion of your taxes as well, so you don't have to.
Right. And you?
Oh.